Hello, my name is Valeria Diaz, and this is my video presentation too. A trade deficit occurs when a country has more imports than exports. The United States is in a trade deficit currently because they are currently importing goods from places like China and Germany. Since they are currently in a trade deficit, they are importing more goods due to consumer demands and low supplies in America currently. Places such as China are currently in a trade surplus. A trade surplus occurs when a country is currently exporting more goods than importing, uh, such as China. China is currently exporting more pharmaceutical drugs and more electronic goods. This is very important because they are supplying many countries with these products that they cannot make themselves because they don't have enough resources that China does have. And since they are ahead, they export the goods a lot more than importing, since they don't really take in that many imports. And yes, currently America is in a trade deficit, since most of the goods consumers want are international. So America is currently importing these goods from a lot of countries, and a lot of the goods are made outside of the United States. This causes for the trade deficit to be more impactful, since we can't manufacture or create any important goods in the United States that's worth exporting a large amount of. So people decide to import more and more goods from other places that might be of higher value. Monetary and fiscal policy are the two ways the government tries to keep the economy more stable and the economy to keep it growing. Monetary policy is when the economy is controlled by a country's central bank. So this one bank deals with all the interest rates and the money supply that the country currently has. So, for example, when the economy is very slow and it's not really moving as well, the central bank will lower the interest rates of loans, and it will allow people to borrow more money. It will allow businesses to borrow more money. So this is important because if people borrow money, they're able to spend the money on items, and then the economy can start quickening up more and more, and then the economy won't be as slow anymore, and it'll go back to normal. The government does this so the economy isn't stuck being slow for a long time, such as like a few years or even a few months. They try to want to keep the economy growing more, and that's why monetary is very important. So the central bank will lower the interest rates, so people take out more loans and spend more money. But when the inflation is too high, they will raise up the interest rates to loans and borrowing money. So when the interest rates are high, that will mean it will slow down on the spending. And when the spending is slowed down, that means the government and the bank are able to keep the prices under control. Because when people aren't spending as much, they're more frugal with their money. That means the price really does matter, and that will keep the government going more and more stable with the economy. Before the 1930s, the most popular economic belief was classical economics. This belief was based on the idea that an economy was self-regulating and that the economy will naturally correct itself over time. Some examples are that as long as the goods and services were being produced, people would want to buy them either way, and if there was excess amount of those goods, that would just mean the businesses would lower the price, so people are more obligated to buy the product at a lower cost. They believe that the recessions would not last as long because they did believe that these recessions would fix themselves over time. Like the economy will slowly fix itself by lowering the prices, and the supply would be enough to support. And since there's enough supplies, they believe that the unemployment would be solved quickly as well. But the prices and the wages just did not adjust, so that led to the 1930s economical crash, the Great Depression. The Keynesian is different from the classical because the maker Keynes believed that the demand and supply drove the country. Since they both drove the country, they are both very important in the way the economy works. If you don't have supply, then there will be a higher demand, and if there's a lot of supplies, there'll be a lower demand. So the economy needs both of them, and they needs to have a balance, just so it doesn't resolve to a recession again. If the consumers don't have enough money or the confidence in the economy, they will not be spending as much, and businesses would have to cut back down again, and they wouldn't be able to work as much or hire as much people. He also expressed that the government has to step in order to help the economy. If the government does not step in, then the people don't have a backbone to fall back on, and they would feel that they are in the recession alone. The government should be able to fix the market by increasing the government spending, and by spending I mean they should be funding towards the states and the towns, and basically the government should be able to create enough jobs, such as hiring people to fix the roads, to create more bridges, and hopefully to create more schools so people can have more and more jobs and the unemployment can stop. And once the unemployment can stop, they believe that the recession would be okay again. The fiscal policy is controlled by the government. It involves taxes and currently government funding and spending. During a recession, a government may lower the taxes so the people will feel more secure and they won't have to pay as much in taxes, so they are able to save more money, so later on they'll be able to spend more and more of the saved money that they have from the lower taxes. And the government will be able to increase the government funding for government-funded ideas such as building more roads, building more bridges, and funding schools, funding healthcare facilities, and funding anything that will be beneficial to the community. Another way those could be more beneficial is because it will create more and more jobs for people who may have been laid off or who may have to leave their jobs due to the recession or were unfortunately sick and they couldn't be able to afford to work anymore. If the economy is overheating, the government might raise the taxes in order for people to stop spending and start being more frugal with their money. If they're more frugal with their money, then they aren't buying as much and they're more picky with what they spend their money on. And they might even cut down on the funding for schools, building roads, and like all hospital care in order for it to stop overheating the economy. The business cycle is the natural rise and fall of the economy over time. It has 4 stages. Expansion, when the economy is getting started and is growing a little more rapidly. And then next is the peak. The peak is when the economy is at its best, everything's going well, and it's basically in a great time to be working and to be earning money at the moment. But economies do need to be a little careful about this, because when it's growing rapidly, it could be a sign that there might be a recession or inflation coming soon. And then next, it's the recession. This is when the economy slows down and then the businesses make less money, and then the employment will rise, and then the people will spend less. The last and then the lowest stage is the true. This is when the economy is at its worst. Like, no one's making money, there's no jobs, the businesses are going to be run down, but at least there will be a recovery during the stage where people are willing to make changes to themselves and to their ideologies, so where they can build back up the economy. So, recession means that the economy is shrinking, employment is rising, and then people cut back on the spending, and then businesses do close during recessions. Expansion means the economy is growing, there are more jobs, higher incomes, and then the businesses are doing a good job and they're doing very well.